The member for Parkdale High Park.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll never forget the day that she came running into our church. She was a respected member of our congregation. Many of you know I'm a United Church minister as well as a member of provincial parliament. It was in the middle of the day. The church was a busy, humming place, lots of programming going on in various rooms. She was terrified. She was looking for a place to hide. And shortly after she came in and hid in my office, her husband came in trying to find her. Went around the church banging on every door, yelling at everybody. He wasn't drunk. He was upper middle class. And for a second, we all got, in that congregation, what that poor woman lived with every day of her life. And I listened to the minister read out the names. It's always profoundly moving 24 years later about the massacre at L'École Polytechnique. But the simple reality is that each year, more than 100,000 women and children are staying in shelters for abused women. On any given day, that's 3,000 women, along with their 2,500 children. And, Mr. Speaker, the situation for them is becoming ever more dangerous over the last 10 years. I'll give you some examples. Cornerstone Family Violence Prevention, which is in Northumberland County, I met with them just recently. In 2006 to 2007, they turned away 4 women. Now remember, when they turn away women from this shelter, they're turning them away to a perhaps lethal outcome. We know that women are most at risk when they're leaving their household with their children. So when they turn them away to danger. 4 in 2006 2007, next year 30, next year 43 were turned away, next year 32 were turned away, next year 53 were turned away, next year 60 were turned away, next year after that 61, and this year, Mr. Speaker, 2013 to 2014, in the first 5 months alone, they have turned away 72 women. Let me tell you about what's happening in Toronto at Victim Services, which is the only service, frontline agency, that provides support services for victims of domestic violence and sexual abuse immediately. They go out with the police to the scene and immediately on the site provide assistance. They work 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. Their funding per victim has dropped from $286 per victim in 1990 to $31 in 2010. Chief Blair and the police do fundraisers every year for them, and that doesn't even begin to make up for the shortfall. They, by the way, do not get any money from the Ontario Sexual Violence Action Plan. They're the only agency that on the spot, after an incident, is there to help children and women. So I have to say, Mr. Speaker, what will it take? Will it take a death of a child or a woman, or both, before this government acts to remedy what is a crisis situation? To tell you, in meeting with frontline agencies and workers, all of them reported crisis situations. There were, at that point in Oshawa, when I met with them, probably 30 agencies represented. Not one of them was happy with current conditions. All of them had flatline funding. All of them were promised something sometime, the check's in the mail, but the check wasn't arriving. And meanwhile, these women and children are being turned away, and there's nowhere else for them to go. Now, 24 years ago, we had a wake-up call as a community. I had a wake-up call in my own congregation when this woman, we'll go unnamed, came running in looking for assistance. Wake-up calls, I suspect, happen in many women, even in this chamber's lives, Mr. Speaker. Certainly, many women in our communities have had wake-up calls about what violence truly means. When we think about every 6 days a woman dies, if it were any other group, Mr. Speaker, it would be a national calamity. But it's women, and it's children, and it's getting worse. So I say, enough talk. I've said this for 8 years in this place. Action. We need action. Cornerstone needs action. Victim Services needs action. Most importantly, Mr. Speaker, the women and children in our constituency, all of them, need action They need it today. Thank you.